What's up and good? I'm sorry. What's up and good morning, War Report family? Live from SEC Media Days. Joining me is my good friend Zac Blackerby of the Locked On Auburn podcast. Go over to YouTube, subscribe to Locked On Auburn. They're doing great stuff over there. Friends of the War Report. Zac, last year you and I were here.
Yes.
And we agreed that Brian Harsin won Media Days.
Yeah.
He didn't win much after that, but he did win Media Days.
I think so. I mean, he said all the right things.
Yeah.
And it would have been really cool if it worked out, the whole just watch, or, they came at me and it didn't work. But
it is what it is.
Yeah, you got to win football games.
Well, my question for you to open is, did Hugh Freeze win Media Days? What did you hear from him this week that made you feel like things are headed the right direction?
Yeah, I don't know if he won Media Days. I don't really know who that's been up to this point, but it seemed like their plan was to get in and get out. And I mean, you look at the list of players that they brought. I mean, no headline guys. I mean, no disrespect to any of these players, but they're all going to be like role players or locker room leaders on this team. And they all came in, said what they needed to say, said the right things, and got out. They went back to Auburn. And so I think that's what Hugh Freeze wanted. I think it makes sense why he wanted that. He's very focused on building a roster and trying to win on the field, not win the press conference. And I think we saw proof of that earlier this week.
I got a chance to ask in the main session Hugh Freeze about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I feel like he tried to dodge my question a little bit. But
Sure, he's tired of being asked about quarterbacks.
Hey, but we got to ask,
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
listen,
right.
Fall camp is coming. Peyton Thorne is on campus. Robbie Ashford is the incumbent. Holden Gariner waits in the wings. Hugh said that he feels like there's great competition in that room. Do you feel like we got a little bit of coach speak there on the quarterback situation, or are you still solid in your position, in my position, that Peyton Thorne will be the starter come the fall?
Well, I mean, he talked about, they've got like a 10-day plan to narrow it down from 3 guys to 2 guys. We're assuming Holden's that 3rd guy.
Right.
And to me, I think that's kind of saying, okay, yeah, it's down between Robbie and Peyton. I'd be shocked if it wasn't those 2 that he narrows it down to, right? So I don't know how much of coach speak that is or not. I mean, he talked really highly about Robbie, which is a little bit of a change of pace of what we've seen before. He's kind of been calling him out up to this point for leadership and, just the quarterback room as a whole needing to grow up and all of that. And when he was asked about Peyton Thorne, it was like, I love his leadership. He's the best leader ever, whatever. And we saw kind of a different tune a little bit earlier this week. I don't think it was drastic, but I think he was more complimentary of Robbie than we've seen in his previous press conferences. Does that mean anything? No clue. Practice starts on August 2nd. That's when it'll really matter.
Look, Elijah McAllister, Cam Stutz, Luke Deal, those were the representatives here. In a recent fireside chat we had with some players, the wide receivers, they talked about the evolution of this offense, and they feel like they're going to have substantially more opportunities in this offense. Hugh Freeze talked about the offense this week and what him and Philip Montgomery are doing. What sense did you get from his comments about the direction of this offense and what fans can expect to see?
Well, I mean, he was asked about the offense, and he said, I don't know. And if I told you something, I'd be lying to you because I don't know what the offense is going to look like. That's not to say that those players are incorrect as far as the evolution. But
is that about quarterback?
I think it's about all of it.
Yeah.
I think it's about all of it. But you got to think if Peyton wins the job versus if Robbie winning the job, it's going to look different. You got to assume that, right? And hey, maybe the passing patterns look different too. What if Nick Marner holds on to the job versus a Shane Hooks or a Camden Brown? I mean, the routes that they're asked and the patterns that they're asked, that could change too. I think the tight end room is probably set. I think the offensive line's pretty dang close to being set. There may be a few battles there. The running back room, I think we all feel good about that. So, yeah, it probably matters more about the quarterbacks than anything else. But as far as the evolution of the offense, it sounds like they're being asked to learn more than they were in the past, which is great because regardless of who wins the job, they should be ready. Hopefully they're ready because they've already kind of learned how to do all of these things in the Philip Montgomery Hugh Freeze playbook.
If you haven't seen our fireside chat, I highly recommend you go watch that. One of the comments that we got during the chat was last year's offense was complicated. Even for the wide receivers, they felt like they couldn't play fast. They were thinking too much. And the comment that we got from the players was, hey, this is more simple. It's closer to what we ran in high school. And we feel like we can do damage in this offense, right? What bar does Hugh Freeze have to reach in points per game this year, you think, maybe, to give the receivers a chance to make plays in this offense?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have like a specific number by any means, but I mean, we saw we saw the offense kind of get, I don't want to say dumbed down, but get simpler when Harsin was let go, and Cadillac taking over. I mean, it was a very simple offense,
for sure.
but it worked a lot better.
It was more effective.
Right. It worked a lot better. They leaned on their strengths, which was running the football. Even with Robbie's legs, I mean, what they did against Alabama, everybody talks about, I mean, that wasn't a close game, but that rushing attack was pretty crazy.
Right.
And I think some people forget about that. And I know you've brought that up several times on my show, Mike. So I believe that, because once they were able to just line up and play football towards the end of the year, they looked better. And it's not like they just got more talented all of a sudden because, the scheme changed.
Yeah.
It's, they got to play football again, which is something that they all want to do. And so, I mean, Hugh Freeze's offense, I mean, it demands a lot. I think it demands a lot more of the quarterback than any other position, which isn't a take. I mean, that's not a hot take by any stretch of the imagination, but just the whole, being ready thing. I mean, that's what it's going to come down to for the wide receivers, I think, more than anybody else.
Zach, Hugh Freeze was asked about Jarquez Hunter. He gave essentially what equates to a no comment. How much trouble is this team in if Jarquez Hunter is not available for the first few games?
I don't think it's a huge deal. I mean, Jarquez Hunter's a good player, don't get me wrong, but I really like Damari Austin. I really like Jeremiah Cobb.
Yep.
I really like Brian Batty, though his comments about Batty coming back from injury were a tad concerning. Let's just be real. That was a tad concerning in my opinion. Comments on him and Jair Shorter, I was like, oh, okay, all right. Well, glad you're being honest. No, I think, especially early in the season, up until A&M, I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I don't think it matters. I think Auburn can run on Cal with any of the other guys.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to end out asking you, does Auburn
7-5.
7-5. Does Auburn have a natural wide receiver on this roster?
Natural wide receiver. No more Kobe Hudson, huh?
Yeah.
Sure. I think so. I don't know who we're going to give that tag to quite yet, but there's a ton of great candidates, right? I mean, Camden Brown, I think, makes a ton of sense.
Jay Fair looking pretty natural out there.
Jay Fair is a natural wide receiver. I'm cool if we give it to him. He's a good friend of the War Rapport. I'm okay with that.
Well, look, I want to thank you for joining us today. Zac Blackerby from Locked On Auburn. We're live from SEC Media Days. Please go over to YouTube, subscribe to Locked On Auburn. They got great things going on over there. My friend Zac Blackerby, guys, we're signing off. And as always, War Eagle.